Lynn Good, President and CEO of Duke Energy. Great to see you in Washington at Fortune's The Most Powerful Women Summit.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
You have a lot on your plate, actually. Since you've become CEO, you've got two particular mandates, if you will. And one is you're trying to modernize the grid. You're also trying to move toward cleaner energy. So stepping back, big picture, how do you balance the need for increased investment with keeping your shareholders happy?
So the industry is going through transformation from generation to delivery to customers, and Duke has actually been at the business of transforming for almost 10 years as we've modernized our system. And we've had an opportunity at over that time period to introduce natural gas and renewables, and have been able to make those investments in a period when natural gas has been very low in price, interest rates have been low, and we've actually been able to put together a great investment proposition for our investors, while at the same time keeping prices low for our customers.
Your dividend yield is actually higher than your peers, so I assume that is something you are very eager to maintain.
So the dividend is an important part of the value proposition for a Duke shareholder. We target a payout around 70% of our earnings, and today, with interest rates as low as they are, the yield is very attractive.
So moving into some individual projects, one thing you've been doing is shutting some coal operations. Again, natural gas is now a supplier of energy that a couple of years ago we didn't really foresee. Do you ever see coal making a resurgence in the U.S.?
I see coal as having been really the backbone of the electric system over the last number of decades and really the last century. I think it'll play a lesser role as we go forward. Based on the regulations that exist today, building new coal is almost impossible. And so what we've been doing at Duke is modernizing our system. We've retired about half of our coal units in the Carolinas, 40 units across our system, and introducing natural gas. Our carbon emissions are down over 20% as a result of that modernization, and we'll see that continue in the years ahead. We are, of course, keeping an eye on reliability and keeping an eye on value and price to customers, because as we modernize, we still want to ensure that we have reliable and affordable power for customers.
How about renewables? This has been a little bit more difficult. We certainly saw several years ago solar kind of blew up a little bit. There are limits to where you can put renewables to be effective. How will that play a role at Duke going forward?
So renewables will be an increasing part of the portfolio. We've invested to date about $4 billion and have about 3,000 megawatts of renewables around our system. We see another $3 billion of investment over the next 5 years. And as that technology continues to improve, the prices continue to decline, we see it as an increasing part of the portfolio. But I emphasize portfolio because you need natural gas with it. We have nuclear and other resources, so that intermittent characteristic of renewable, it doesn't work every hour of the day, can be complemented by other resources. So we work actively to keep that portfolio working so the renewables fit very well.
How have you been able to manage through resistance to some projects? I mean, there is always sometimes difficulties moving through properties and areas. How have you tried to balance that with some of the other transmission projects?
So stakeholder outreach is at the center of everything we do. Building transmission, building pipelines, building power plants, even renewable power plants can be a question or an issue for a community. And the only thing that works is to engage and have discussions. We care deeply about these communities. Of course, the residents do as well. And trying to find a win-win is really what you're working toward. And that takes lots of discussion and lots of outreach to stakeholders. And that's really the answer.
Is there anything you need to see in terms of changes on the regulatory front that would make projects easier for you to pursue? Is there something lacking currently here in DC?
Regulations in DC are always a part of our business, and so we plan for them as we think about new projects to ensure that we are developing them in a way that gives recognition to those approvals. I always think regulations need to keep pace to the extent they can with all of the innovation. So if we need to build natural gas pipelines, if we need to build transmission to meet the cleaner future, let's ensure we have permitting structures that keep pace with that requirement, because you have natural tensions that can develop where you're trying to pursue the policy, but the regulations at times are not working at the same pace.
And finally, how have you fared since the storms in the Carolinas? I know many of your customers were impacted, so where do things stand now?
All customers restored at this point. It was, just an extraordinary period of wet weather, lots of rain, flooding, And I'm proud of the way the Duke system has responded. We had outages of about 500,000 customers, and we're able to put them back into service quickly and safely.
Lynn Good, great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. My pleasure.